Hello, I'm Michael Orwig, and welcome to the Wizard's Chest. With me is my old friend, Aleta Sira Ras, a wonderful intuitive. You've been working as a psychic for...
Professional.
It starts dating you, yes.
Yeah.
How many years? 30?
30.
40? Yeah, 30 years.
Yeah.
Clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. And with us today is your spirit guide as well. We have a full crowd here.
Oh, yes, we do.
We have Sam, and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Sam, and then we'll go into...
Okay. Sam's been with me since, pretty much since I was born. He's always been around me. He's just my main teacher and guide for this lifetime.
And you've had lifetimes with Sam.
Oh, yes. Yep. Last lifetime we were husband and wife, and we were part of the Mormon community in Illinois, and it was a wild ride. It was a really wild ride. He ended up passing away. Him and my daughter at that time, which is my daughter Holly now, ended up drowning that lifetime, and so I ended up being a widow fairly young.
Really?
Yeah.
And in ancient Greek?
And he was actually Socrates back then. I did not know that for many, many years. Never asked. It was not important to him. He was always, my guide is Sam the corn farmer. Great. Everybody else got Indian chiefs. No. I get a corn farmer.
Well,
Yeah.
Socrates.
Exactly.
Not
No.
bad. Does he ever do the philosophy bit with you very much?
No.
Really?
He just doesn't even go there. Nope.
Have you ever asked?
No, I really haven't. We have our stuff, and actually because I relate to him more as Sam than as Socrates.
Okay.
I really don't. It's like he was, I don't know, in that lifetime he truly was the love of my life. And
In the Mormon lifetime.
Right, in the Mormon lifetime. So I have more of a connection with him with that lifetime than Socrates. I mean, he was my teacher and all that great stuff, but the emotional connection was really at Sam.
And we have more people than just Sam with us today.
Yes, we do.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I usually have a crew with me that come in and out for different stuff, and I never know who's going to be around. I know there's, I keep hearing Lady Nada and Archangel Raphael is here, so is Archangel Michael. There's some big, Paul the Venetian, another buddy of mine.
One of the things I worked at extensively with the book, The Quantum Children, was with what I refer to as the Order of the Magdalene, or the Order of Isis, both. And it's basically run by Mother Mary, but of course Mother Magdalene. But I was part of that order, and I don't know if it was from a male lifetime still being, but one way or another, they help the children with all kinds of different things. And so writing about the quantum children, and I have no doubt that they're here within all of our stuff too, interacting, giving thoughts on different questions to ask or whatever, but they're a main part. So we could sell tickets.
Yes.
It would work.
Great.
Now, one of the interesting things as we've talked about over the years for you is your early childhood.
Yeah.
And as an intuitive, you saw Sam from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah. I did
Tell us
not
about
really realize that he wasn't a physical person. I mean, he was always, when I'd wake up from my naps when I was still in a crib, it's like I would see him sitting in the chair on the other side of the room like he was just waiting for me to wake up, and I'd actually start rocking my crib trying to get over to him. And it wasn't until I was about 5 years old that my mother walked upstairs with some laundry, and Sam was standing there, and it's almost like he purposely let her walk through him. So I could then see that something wasn't quite as I thought it was. And it was interesting because from that moment forward, he actually started fading from my physical view.
But you've always been able to hear him.
Always. He's always been there.
Now, for others to tap into that level of guidance, to me, at least the way I've heard it explained many different times, it's like tuning into a radio frequency.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
How does that work for you, and how maybe could other people play with that themselves and see if they can fine-tune their radios a bit?
It's kind of like once you get tuned into a frequency, you recognize it. Mm-hmm. And so you're always able to tune back into that. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Yeah, but it's the hitting it finally and
yeah.
But not that many. Well, people receive their guidance in different ways.
Yes, they do.
And so having all three, the clairaudient, clairvoyant, and clairsentient, all as the three is a little bit more rare. I'm probably more clairsentient. I'll have a feeling or whatever. But at the same time, for me, when I'm doing an interview or a hypnosis session, I'll have a thought to go in this particular direction.
Yeah.
But it's not visual. It's just whatever. And
feels like what needs to happen.
It's always interesting. Now, when you were young, tell me about your mother. Was she intuitive at all? Was she accepting? Did she recognize your gifts?
My mom it was a very interesting family because one part was very, very Victorian, straight-laced, really hardcore Mormon, yet she had an aunt that was a psychic and astrologer up in Berkeley in the 60s, so there was some really interesting stuff going on there. My aunt told my mom when I was probably about 5 to never tell me that it was my imagination, because it wasn't. And so my parents were always really kind of pretty open. When I was 7, my grandmother came to me in a dream and told me she was going home. And it was such a vivid dream that I told my parents about it. And they're kind of going, honey, Grandma, she's a vegetable. She had a stroke, right? She's never going home. Well, a week later, she passed away. And then they went, oh, that home.
But that didn't freak them out.
No.
Okay. Well, that's good, because so many of the parents we've heard about, that their reaction to that shuts the child down immediately.
Yeah.
And being open or at least understanding on what they were referring to, because a 5-year-old child hasn't really developed the processing to really understand all of the ins and outs. And my good friend Anthony, as a psychic, saw a person dying like at age 6.
Right.
And I think it was his uncle or whatever, and he said something to his parents, and sure enough, he dies 2 days later. Anthony thought he had caused it. So there's that, depending upon what the reaction was within that. What else, childhood-wise? What do you remember growing up? Good stuff your mom did? Not such good stuff your mom did?
Actually, my mom was pretty great and open, because even when, I was raised, our house was very, very haunted. And it was interesting, later on I realized there were 2 different spirits that lived there. But my brothers were always seeing stuff. So what I came up with, my brothers kind of were the front runners a little bit with telling my parents, hey, stuff's going on in this house.
How much older were the brothers?
My youngest brother's 8 years older than me. The next one
so
is
they
12,
were quite a
16.
bit older.
Yeah, they were a lot older. So
it wasn't just you,
no.
which is good.
Yeah. It was just more prevalent with me. And it's like, as I got closer to being a teenager, it's interesting because all my brothers were out of the house by then. But as I got to be closer to 11, 12, 13 years old, the house kind of went batshit crazy. And things started really happening a lot more.
Did you guys move at that point in time?
No.
How long did you stay there?
I lived there till I was 19, but I never spent a night alone in that house ever.
Okay.
Ever. It was never going to happen. And and it was one of those houses you ran up the stairs, and me and my brothers talk about this. You ran up the stairs, you never walked because there was something behind you.
Whether it's the shadows or darkness that was...
And it felt like it had teeth, and you just ran, and you shut the basement door. That basement door was never...
But nothing other than that happened, just that the consistent feeling that...
Well, things would move around. Sometimes I had a friend over one night. I guess my parents were out of town, and I had a friend over, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. She wakes up going, and I hear a voice from the guest room going, "Why are you vacuuming?" And I wake up going, "It's not me." And I get up, and actually I had a hairdryer in the bathroom that was between the two sinks. Well, somehow it had fallen down into the sink and turned on.
With nobody.
With nobody, yeah. And it's like, there was a time when I was probably about 13 or 14 where I was home alone. My parents had gone bowling, and I was talking to my boyfriend on the phone, and it sounded like somebody fell down our basement stairs. I mean, clunk, clunk. I mean, a heavy body fell down the stairs. Totally freaked me out. And he came over, and we searched the house, and there was nothing there. But
you just wanted your boyfriend.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I remember. Now, you have an interesting tale of just, because you were done with the earthly plane.
Oh, yeah.
You had done a transition.
Yep.
And you were, as you described it, on your way home.
Yep.
Pick it up from there.
Yeah, and I got stopped. Actually, my Lady Nada and Paul the Venetian, they're two of the masters of the Seven Rays. And they've been with me for forever. They're buds of mine. So they were kind of escorting me into the light, and we get stopped. And I'm kind of going, okay. And all I hear is, have a favor to ask you. And it's like, okay, what? Okay. Shit.
Wow.
Yeah, what? So, and it's like they asked me basically to go back. And it's like, you don't have to, but this is what we're asking you.
So now, was this God? Do you think it was the light councils? Did
I feel like it was more of light councils.
Okay.
You know, it's like, we would really like you to do this, and silly me asked, fine, where do you need me? Yeah.
Now, but they also offered that you could come back
as a guide.
Yeah.
There was different levels.
Well, what were the ones besides being a guide?
A guide, there's the guardians, there's just the ones that kind of nudge people to go a certain direction. There's different levels. It's almost being, there was one was actually being an Akashic librarian.
Really?
Yeah. And it was like, oh, that's different. That would have been fun.
But you use that, and you got to watch what you say.
Yeah.
You basically said, where do you need me the most? And of course they said, in a physical body.
Yeah, and here I am.
So now, you finally go back through your light councils and decide what you want to do and all of that. How much of a memory do you have, or have you looked at intuitively to go back between the two lifetimes and see different things that you had put in place for you to do? How much of that do you remember?
Actually, I haven't really looked at it that much, to tell you the truth, because it's just not, it's like, I kind of vaguely remember I agreed to come in and do this, so here I am. I don't feel the need to go back and, figure out why. I kind of know why.
Okay. All right. But within that, then you had a very interesting scenario because they wanted you to come in as a female.
And I was not happy with that.
And why?
Let me see. Coming into lifetimes and being a strong female back get you killed.
How many times do you think you were killed?
Oh, at least 500-600 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you miscarried. Your mother miscarried not once but twice, where you went.
Actually, no.
3 times, where you went.
I ain't going in there, female. No.
No. And then they finally called you back in and said,
"Come on,
we need this."
And it's like,
they said it would be different, right?
Yes, they did. They're going. You're going into a completely different time. Everything is transitioning. You'll be fine. And I'm going, okay. So here I am. Yay!
But within that, did not come without some bumps in the road along the way.
A few.
You had. It sounds like a good childhood, but at the same time, there was some bullying that happened. Teenagerhood.
My family itself was great.
Yeah.
You know, family was fine. Other kids, not so much. I never really fit in. Yeah, going through.
That was the thing. Did they see you as different, or just feel you as different?
I think just felt me as different. I just never. I mean, we had the neighborhood kids, but I never felt like I belonged. And I always felt like my mom told me when I was an adult, "You were never a child as a child. You were just never a kid." I always knew too much, and she always would look at me like, "How do you know that?"
Well, but that brings up a fun one I'd even forgotten about a little bit, and that's that you have gotten downloads all your life, not unlike basically the Matrix with Neo being plugged in. You would just know things.
Yeah, it's like being able to sit down and just play the piano. Or
how old were you when that happened?
I think I was about, let me see, Dane was still in the house. He was 16, so I was probably about 8.
And you just sat down and started playing the piano?
Yeah. My parents came downstairs and went, "We got that for Dane," because he was part in a band. And he wanted to learn how to play the piano, so they rented a piano. But I was the one that played it. Same with the pool table. It's like, got a pool table when I was about 9 years old. My parents, it was in the warehouse, my dad's warehouse, and they found it up in the attic when they bought it, and they took it out. It was a 100-year-old Brunswick with sterling silver in the
really
beautiful pool table, and they had it refurbished.
Was it pretty flat?
It was actually great.
Oh.
You know, it was surprising.
So you were the not a card shark, pool shark.
I was a pool shark. Yeah, I could just about beat anybody.
Really?
Yeah, and I played every day between the time I was 9 years old and 19 when I left that house.
Did you play for quarters?
My brothers wouldn't because I wouldn't. It's no fair. You play every day, and I'm fine. But even from the first time I played it, it was never that too was.
Had you done that previously in a different lifetime?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, because I know when I've looked at different lifetimes, and I recognize that in a particular lifetime we bring in certain skill sets that we've already mastered or tapped into. For both of us, it's the crystal and earth energy.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in another segment at length because we want to play with crystals. But also, like in the 1800s, I'd been painter to the king of France for 20 years. I was the foremost pastelist. I can't draw a stick. Yeah. You know, stick diagrams.
And yet artwork was one that I brought forward.
And you still do the art and all of that today.
Yeah.
Definitely want to see some of the artwork and all of that. It's just interesting what we choose on a soul level to bring in.
Yeah.
And then there's also the capability that if we're coming into a role we haven't done before, so we have no level of mastery or anything, but we need a particular skill set.
Yeah.
This is where we can go into the Akashic Records and literally pull in information from another soul's energy and overlay it into our own. And I don't know if that's ever happened for me. I don't recognize any of it, but it becomes such a part of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it feels seamless.
Yes.
For most people, it might be a leadership role.
Right.
And consequently, you might go through the records and pick a Gandhi if you're supposed to be in that kind of a scenario
right.
of a peaceful. But it's interesting what we can tap into. And I think when people then look at past lives for that individual, it triggers that, oh, I was Gandhi.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Not
you
quite.
carry an energetic signature.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that really was your
right.
particular life. But yeah, in this lifetime, I've never painted a thing, but you've carried it forward.
Yeah.
And so definitely we want to talk a little bit about that aspect of it. But for taking us forward into the lifetime, there are different awakening points we all have.
Yeah.
You were married fairly early?
I was married at 20.
Okay. A little bit early.
Yeah.
Not 25, 26, but around 20. The girls came in. You have 3 daughters.
Yep.
And the girls started coming 21, 22, 23?
Heather was born 3 months before my 21st birthday.
Okay.
So.
And then they all came in a rapid succession.
Right after each other, yeah.
And so how long were you married?
I was married to Steve for 12 years. We were separated 3 of that.
Okay.
So we were actually together for about 9 years.
Really, pretty much the way you described it, you had run a reasonably normal life in that late teenage, early 20-something, starting a family, having the girls. You were working at Blue Cross Blue Shield?
No, I was working as a metal broker down in California. I bought and sold raw material for government and aerospace.
Okay.
Surprise.
It
wasn't, I didn't do Blue Cross Blue Shield till I moved here to Colorado.
Right, okay. But it was at the time when you were late 20s.
Yeah.
28, I believe?
Yep.
That basically Sam and your group said it's time for you to start doing your work.
Yeah.
So you were divorced now, single mom.
Yeah.
3 daughters, so that would put them 7, 6, 5?
A little older than that. A little older.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was when I moved to Colorado, which was 86. So yeah, 5, 6, and 7 for the girls.
So now pick up the story where they were asking you to begin your work and you were going, you pick up the story from there.
I was perfectly happy working at Blue Cross Blue Shield. Yet I always had my, from my training with Sam doing the automatic writing all through my teenage years, but I kind of shut it down when I was about 16. I was more into partying and it was the 70s. I had a really good time. So between about 16 and I'd say about 25, 26, I was really ignoring it. About 26, I started getting interested in the book Seth Speaks, and started finding books like that. And then when we moved to Colorado, Spirit, and I got involved with a meditation group, which Greg Braden was one of, and started getting involved with that, and that's when Spirit started coming through going, we want you to do your real work, we want you to do your real work, and I kept going, no, I'm not going out there in public again and doing this crap, no. Nope. Boatload of no.
How'd that work for you?
Not really well. Yeah, after 2 years of saying no, all of a sudden I started having problems working on the computer. I was going into petit mal seizures and getting funky migraines, and where I'd get the auras over my eyes, go into tunnel vision, and then my speech would go completely garbled and I couldn't remember what I was doing. It was special. So found out I had a little bit of a brain tumor. Yeah, so started going to a neurologist and had a couple of MRIs where they found the tumor and all that kind of good stuff. And then they decided that they were going to operate on it because of where it was at. I was not pleased with that. So that's when I went in and called in Archangel Raphael and went, okay, what do I got to do to get rid of this? You know, what are we doing here? And that's when they told me again, quit your job, change your name, and do your real work. And I'm kind of like, fine. And we'll show you how to get rid of this. And so that's what I did is I went in, they showed me how to use the small chakra in your hand like a laser beam, put it to my head and saw a green light shooting and eating up the brain tumor. When I went in for the third MRI,
which was literally a day before the surgery?
3 days.
3 days?
3 days before the surgery. He just kind of pulled me into his office and went, what'd you do? And I went, what do you mean? What?
What?
And he's going, what'd you do? And I kind of went, you're going to think I'm insane. And he's going, let me tell you what I've been studying. He's going, I've been studying how kids are using visualization, leukemia kids, seeing the good cells eating up the bad cells, and it's working. So I want to know what you did. And so I told him I, used the laser and this and that. And he's going, well, it worked. Look, here's your line of scar tissue. The tumor's gone. And I went, oh, cool. So didn't have to do the surgery. And he actually wrote me up in a paper that added to his studies.
Really?
Yeah. I have no idea what the doctor's name is at this point. I'm sure it's in my records somewhere. But yeah, so it's like, that was the beginning of the change. So I did. My first doing a psychic fair professionally was October down here in Colorado Springs at the Celebration Fair. October of 1988 was my first fair. We had a day off Monday for something. When I went in to work that Tuesday, I quit. With no notice, nothing.
So you're a single mom.
Yep.
3 kids.
Yep.
Giving up your
really
regular
good
paycheck.
Income.
Your insurance.
Oh, yeah.
To go it alone.
No child support, nothing.
But you weren't alone.
No.
You had a lot of help.
Yep, Spirit took care of me every step of the way.
You're not rich.
No, but I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
My
and
kids
that's
are still
always
alive.
where it was really for you.
Yeah.
You had a couple of times you almost won the lottery.
Almost.
But magically the amount you won in each time covered the rent and and on
absolutely
down the line.
Exactly what I needed.
And so they always did. They were there to look after you, but they weren't here to put you in the palace or whatever. And I've seen some of that for myself in the sense that as a pilot, if I had all of my investments do well and I had, pick a number, $3 million in the bank for retirement or whatever, would I still do the work? The answer is yes, but maybe not at the level that
you are.
A little bit, So I've had some interesting things that would be fun to look behind the scenes when we transition and do our life review of going, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, really. Come on, guys. Throw us a bone. Yeah. Come on.
So it's always interesting within that. So you changed your name.
Yep.
And we go by Aleta Sira Ras, which is just 3, but it's longer than that.
Yeah, the whole thing they gave me was Aleta Sira Ras and Tara Ann Kimura, and I'm just kind of going, no. Again, no.
And yet each one of them has a meaning.
Yes, it does.
And it's a vibration that carries in with your work.
Yes.
Explain the short version.
Well, yeah, it's like Aleta was, again, it has to do with the Greek lifetime, the Delphi. Sira actually comes from the star system Sirius. Ross was my connection to let's put it this way. My allegiance is to the house of Ra. And so Ras is the feminine version of Ra.
Okay.
So that's my connection. In Egypt, I was a scribe for the king and also his daughter.
You worked in the mystery schools, weren't you?
Yes.
A high priestess
Yep.
at
One of the
Egyptian,
lifetimes. Yep.
the Egyptian mystery schools.
Yep.
Okay, and you did the Oracle of Delphi numerous lifetimes.
Yep.
In the Greek side.
Yeah.
Can you speak Greek or?
Not a word.
Not a...
I fail horribly at languages
How's your
this
Arabic?
lifetime.
Really?
Yeah, not.
No, you can't pull any of it?
I now, because my second husband was Belgian, it was weird. We could sit and I was over in Belgium and they were having a big conversation around the table, the family, and they're all speaking Flemish, yet I could understand what they were saying and keep up with the conversation, but I can't speak it.
But you could understand.
But I can understand it.
But I mean, part of the reason I mention that is you've been able to tap into a lot of different lifetimes over the years. I think more and more as these new kids are coming in, they're also carrying in much more of the memory, assuming it is part of their soul's path and things that do. But we're bringing in a lot more universal consciousness.
Yes.
And I think it's just such an important aspect to recognize as a parent, because a parent may not understand any of that.
Yeah.
And if they're seeing this lifetime or that lifetime, or when the child is talking about, when I was your parent or
yeah,
whatever.
and they're going, really?
Now, did you flip-flop at all with the girls or your granddaughter, where they were your parent and you were the child, or?
Tell you the truth, I have not looked. I have not looked at all.
Because we frequently...
I know Holly's been my daughter.
Yes.
And I know my other two daughters were at least sisters. Sisters of mine, but I haven't really looked any further than that. It just hadn't really come up.
So as the girls were growing up, granted you were starting on a new career as a psychic back in the time with the first psychic hotlines opened up, and then later you started your crystal work and your wire wrapping and all of that. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about more about that in another episode. But with your raising of the girls, what worked best for you and what didn't work? Or did you even try to work the intuitive side? I just went with it.
I was so clueless. I was just trying to stay on top of feeding the guys, No, I did try and always keep them aware and keep them conscious and let them know what I knew. And then it was up to them what they were going to do with it. Like with Holly, our youngest one, she was our cloud buster. We have a plan to go to Renaissance Fair, which was notorious for getting afternoon thunderstorms. And it's like, okay, Holly, bust those clouds till we're done. And sure enough, we'd have a ring all the way around us. And until we were ready to leave, it would not rain. And then it'd have a downpour. But we were out of there by then. And so she did that kind of stuff. Heidi, it's interesting. I found out from my daughter Heidi, she's always kind of tried to keep her distance, the crazy mom stuff. It's like with the herbalist daughter we were just talking about.
Gisela.
Yeah, Gisela. Yeah, she wanted nothing to do with it. The girls really aren't that into it yet. Heidi does have dreams that come true like I do. In fact, she called me one day going, "Mom, is Holly pregnant?" And not that I know of. Why? She goes, "I had a dream about it." And I'm kind of going, okay. She's going, "Well, sometimes those things come true when they're that vivid." And I said, "Oh, you do that like I do." Yeah. Okay. But that's as far as she takes it.
Really?
Yeah.
I know every person has within them their timing for the awakening. And as we see it go through the mass consciousness, subjects that would have been very difficult to talk about 20 years ago
Are normal.
are much easier. And then, as I did my interview with Geesley yesterday, and we were talking about Hannah Kroger, she started the first health food store in 1953.
Yeah.
That's like a different
Planet.
Yes,
it is.
But these kids today are growing up on a different planet.
Yeah.
And they're coming in for, in essence, the new Earth.
Yes.
And a whole new different vibration.
Yep.
So you have one granddaughter.
Yeah.
How do you help her more than your daughters? How do you help your granddaughter and see her path? Because she was adopted by your best friend.
Yep.
At a time when one of your daughters was at a very low place. So she's with your best friend, who also is a reasonable intuitive, not
Yes.
at your level. And how are you guys working with her?
Actually, just really keep her open. When she gets things and wants to talk about them, we both listen. And again, not telling her she's crazy or it's her imagination. And Julie's actually been able to really help her process through some of her past life stuff at a much earlier age than we even thought about starting. I mean, she's just hitting 12. She started doing her processing work and working through all those old past life emotional things when she was 5 or 6.
Give us an example.
Oh,
Do you
God.
remember some of the good stories?
Let's see. I think one of them was where she was, it's like she was surrounded by some really, really dark energies in another life, and they were trying to still attach to her this lifetime. And so Julie actually had to go in and show her how to set up her shields of light and how to cut cords with them.
Now, was that the one where the teacher had seen the drawings she was drawing at school were very dark?
Yeah.
And the teacher had called home and said something, and that kind of set the thing.
The tone.
So you started teaching her how to shield herself.
Yeah.
Okay. And she was only 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Well, what did you use?
Light. Just light.
Just a bubble of light?
Yeah.
type thing?
Basically bringing light from the greater central sun, bringing another beam up from the earth. You have it meet in the heart, and it's almost when they meet that those light beams are almost like a planet going, sun going supernova.
Yeah.
And it just explodes and put this wonderful bubble around you. And so we showed her how to do that. We showed her how to put a mirror on the outside so that other people's stuff, because she's very empathic and sometimes she picks up on other people's emotions. And
Sometimes?
a lot of times. And so we're trying to teach her how to differentiate what's hers and what's not.
Talk to me. What are you doing with that? How are you doing?
Again, telling her how to learn how to shield, what stones work to set up a shield, like sugilite is a really good one. It's a stone of love, but when you're an empath, it also puts up a nice force field so you don't feel everybody else's stuff.
And the problem with an empath, and it's such a good subject because I would say 80 to 90% of the new kids coming in have an increased empathic capability because we're moving in a time frame we're connecting to all things.
And we're in a much higher vibration.
I have to be sensitive
Yeah.
to be connected to all things. And unfortunately, the environment in the school, the standards classroom is cinder block walls.
Yeah.
And you put 30 empaths in a little room. Cinder block walls are holding everything in, and you're told you cannot move.
Yeah.
And the child is picking up the teacher's stuff who's stressed.
Oh, yeah.
So the more stressed, the more that's going to come out. They're picking up John's stuff, Susie's stuff,
Everybody's
Jill
stuff.
on
Yeah.
down the line. And unless an empath understands that's not mine and can kind of keep it out, early on they may internalize it and wonder why I'm feeling this bad.
Yeah.
And it's not theirs.
No.
So learning all of that is part of learning to be an empath.
Yes, it is.
Is in
Yeah.
essence. And it's not taught to
No.
the kids.
No, it's not.
So once again, the shielding tends to work. But once someone has, in essence, internalized to some degree a particular energy, how do you have them clear it?
Actually,
Just send it back, or
have them go in and look where it comes from and follow the thread back, and then cut that thread. Once because sometimes you need to kind of know what's going on. So I have people follow the thread.
So, but as a clairvoyant, you're naturally able to see the energetics and the threads.
Yeah.
Other people may not. They may feel it. They may just try to get a sense. Sometimes when I'm doing a meditation, I'll ask for a particular color.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking then within my own intuitive insight for that color, and then, that works. But I don't naturally see the energy or the auric field as much as they. Now, you did some interesting things with the girls when you brought them home from school.
Yeah, we would brush off the energy.
You would get the school off of them.
Yes, I would. And it was just a matter of energy balancing, just pulling the energy off of them and kind of.
So you would sit them down.
Yep.
And you're able to see the energy.
Yeah.
So how would a parent do it if they're not as adept at seeing?
Well,
just
it's interesting because allowing, but too, also a lot of times when you're doing this to somebody's aura, you can feel hot spots and warm spots, and those it's almost like you want to grab them and just kind of pull them off and see them disappear into a violet flame.
And you would use Saint Germain's violet flame as a receptacle, and the energy would transmute instead of obviously collect here. Yeah.
Now, too, as they got older, it's like, Mom, leave me alone. So what I would do, it's like, I'd wait to smudge my house till they got home. Because as the teenagers, Mom, leave me alone. Fine. So I'd just be smudging.
And that would be how you would handle it.
Yeah, or I'd go through, I've got a chime also that I would clear with sound. It's like, time to clear the house. It just happened to be when they got home from school.
So you mentioned way back when about how you taught the girls to attempt to do it at school itself. And in that instance, you're just doing it as visualization. Yeah. Obviously, you're not standing up in the middle of the classroom.
Well, I did tell them, it's like, if you start getting a headache, because Holly would get headaches. If you're starting to get a headache, all you have to do is, nobody even needs to know, you just sweep. And I taught her how to do that, and that helped her some. But the other two,
And then are they going to remember to do it anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Well, I want to take a break for just a minute, and I want to come back and I want to show some of your paintings and some of your jewelry, and we'll talk about how people can get in touch with you. And the wire wrapping in general has to do with the effect on what it can have on people. Obviously, children. They count. They're little people. They're little people.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of different stones. Each one has its own energy. Go ahead and pick up the story and tell us about some of the different ones, and I'll play zoom in on them if you'd like.
Sure. Well, like for children, rose quartz and adults, rose quartz is really good. It helps them understand self-love. It brings love into their life. For adults, it can help heal the childhood heart trauma that they may have gone through. And again, bring in self-love. So rose quartz does things like that. This one happens to be blended with amethyst and also regular clear quartz. The amethyst, what it does and helps bring into this is it transmutes negativity. So if somebody has negative energy coming at them, it'll help shift that energy to a positive before it ever hits them. Also, amethyst is a high healer and helps you reach higher spiritually.
What do you got for a stressed out parent?
All sorts of good things.
Pick one.
Actually, a really good one for stress is the Larimar or the gem Amazonite.
Okay, so that's the Larimar. Larimar only
Larimar.
comes from the Dominican Republic.
Yep.
It carries a lot of Atlantean energy.
Yes, it
It's a very
does.
high and a very light vibration. One of my
Yes.
favorite pieces has always been Larimar.
Yeah.
Now, the Amazonite, as you said, is very similar.
Yeah, very
We get
similar in
focused on
color.
the Amazonite. I'm sure most people would be shocked to hear that it comes from Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Brazil or Colorado.
Yeah, that's true. It comes in different colors, anywhere from this one is a
This one is
more of a
gem.
greenish blue,
Yeah.
but I've seen it even more tealish
Yep.
than that.
Yeah, I've got a piece downstairs that is actually very. It almost looks like teal with zebra stripes through it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Now, the other thing we a lot of times see, and I'm going to focus on this one by the rose quartz, is this is a rutilated quartz, at least it's tourmaline probably
Yeah,
at this
terminated
distance.
quartz.
Tourmalated, and a lot of times you'll come up with the combinations.
Yep.
And yes, this is a quartz, it's got tourmaline threads through it, that's why it's called tourmalate.
Right.
But you're always combining the three pieces. So you have the main overall energetic, like I'm wearing one of yours that's a druzy agate.
Yeah.
But you have the bead, and then you have the, what is the dangle?
This is a black tourmaline also, and then this is another garnet. Both of these are garnets.
And how are they referred? Just the pieces, the part of the piece, just the dangle and a bead or whatever?
Yeah.
But you almost always put a central piece right in the heart
Yeah.
here too with the spiral. Why? Energetically, what's it doing for you?
It's helping to add energy to the overall piece. Like the tourmalated quartz, the tourmaline is a big protector. It sets up really big shields and just knocks out just about anything around you. And so what happens is the quartz amplifies that. And then the piece on top, the garnet, actually is a root chakra protector and helps you create. So it's basically a protection piece, but the garnet will help you create without creating funky things.
Now, something people should know that you can do is in my travels as a pilot, I brought home many different pieces,
Yes.
and we created a piece.
Yep.
And the favorite one that I have, my wife magically has now, it became her engagement ring, although it's a pendant,
Right.
was a jewel quality aquamarine,
Which was absolutely
we
stunning.
wrapped in platinum.
Yep.
So it is possible to custom
Yes, it is.
design all of our different ones.
Yep.
So now let's look at some of the paintings here a
Okay.
little bit. And within the painting work, this is something that you're going to be doing a lot more of from what they have said.
Yes.
And this helps raise consciousness.
Yeah,
Now-
these are not only emotional triggers, but they're also triggers to help you remember what you need to remember to bring forward from maybe past lives.
Now, these paintings
Yes.
are about 2 feet by 2 feet, 2.5, 3 feet.
30 by 30 inches by 22 inches.
Okay, so obviously these are just the pictures,
Yeah, they're actually big paintings.
but it's all individually channeled,
Yes.
and it will help with the clearing,
Yes, it will.
but it'll bring stuff up.
Yes, it will. You really want to be ready for one of these.
These are wonderful. I have about 10 of them. I'm going to say half I brought to you, the stones, and half you made.
Yeah.
The more of the focus that they really want to help with is within the shifts in consciousness, and
Yes.
that's the individual paintings.
Yep.
But within our last parting shots,
Yes.
anything Sam or the archangels would like to say, or what do they got?
You know, actually, what they're saying is the best we can do right now is really just kind of go with the flow, because everything is shifting and changing so fast that we literally are just having to go for the ride right now. And the more we can help ourselves and the children get through this, the sooner that we get to reach the level of consciousness that we really want to reach.
It is a time of enormous change.
Yes, it is. Train's coming through.
Well, the train is saying,
Let's
yes,
do this.
it is time of enormous change.
Yes, it is.
And we'll pause for a moment.
Okay, I think we're done. I think they're done now. Well, it's just as they go past the road.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So what we done? How can people get in touch with you? How would you like them? Through your website, email?
Oh, there's
phone?
Email, phone, all of the above kind of work.
So the email address?
Email is Sira Ras, which is SIRARAS at MSN.com.
And the phone number?
Phone number is 719-495-5918.
So they can get in touch with you, obviously, for any of the products or to do a reading.
Yes.
But that brings up one last little question.
Yeah.
With the level of change, in reality, how hard is it to look downstream at our timeline? Isn't it extraordinarily difficult?
Constantly changing right now. And it's like, right now I'm telling people they want to know when, and it's like, I'm not putting a time on anything because it keeps warping so bad. Stuff that we think isn't going to happen for months is happening like now. And stuff that we thought was happening now is taking a year or two, and it's making us all a little crazy.
Really?
It's a little.
I want it now.
Yeah, that's
But no,
it.
I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges in doing readings is, yes, I mean, even if I'm looking at something within a couple of months, I feel reasonably okay. But other than that, the timing is
unique.
It is an interesting time to be here.
Yes, it is.
But would you agree that we've made a lot of shifts?
Yes, we have.
We were behind.
Yep.
But
we're
in a bit of a catch-up, and I don't want to say it's all good, but it is all good. But yeah, there are a lot of bumps along the road because a lot of people still are wanting to hold on to the old energy.
Yeah, and they can't because the energy is rising in vibration, and that old stuff doesn't fit anymore. So it's kind of like a Band-Aid getting ripped off.
So one minute, we'll have to talk a lot about that. But on behalf of the Wizard's Chest, myself, Michael Ulrich, Aleta Sira Ras.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful being with you.
This was great.